Okay, good morning, everybody. Good to see you. Good to see your faces. Yeah, today is literature, right? So we're gonna go jump into the Odyssey. But before we do that, I'd like to take a quick look at our schedule so we all know what we're going to do today and what our focus is of this week. Yeah, we are in this week here. Looking at this week, as we see for literature, is that we're going to review chapter 2. So supposedly you've already read chapters 1 and 2. So we're going to go over chapter 2. And today I'm going to give you a quiz 1, which is about chapter 1 and 2. So the questions that you will be getting is all related to chapter 1 and 2. So just open your book, look at it. You can also go to Spark Notes, the link that is at the beginning, yeah, to figure things out. You could even, you know, they have like this search part. So relating to the question, you could even search in Spark Notes, right? This one, the novel information, Spark Notes here. This one, you can just access this, yeah, for any of the information for the quiz. Now the quiz is, as I said to you, you can't fail it, just do it. Yeah, the lowest mark for that one will be 75. That is the lowest, so if you would get below that, you would still get a 75. It's not so much a test, it's more you working with the novel, understanding the storyline and all the elements in it. So I would just want you to do it so you have an idea of really how to work with the story itself. Okay, it is important you do it because the grade will be incorporated in your final grade for literature. So you got to do it. Yeah. Okay. Last week we looked at the literary techniques and elements. Just quickly wants to show it to you one more time, just to remember that it is important to understand this. We have literary devices. Those are divided in 2 aspects, techniques and elements. Okay, here we see the techniques and elements. If we're looking at the elements, we're talking about the elements within a story. Then we're talking about the setting, the rising action. We're talking about the falling action, the climax, the resolution. We're talking about characterization, how mood is built and created, the tone that we have, the theme that we have. We are talking about the antagonists, the protagonists within the story. Okay, so those are all the elements that every story has, yeah? If we're talking about techniques, then we're talking about the building of imagery. So the usage of figurative language, sensory details. Now, as you can see, I put this grid in for you just as a reminder. For the technique. So the building of imagery, we use figurative language and sensory details, basically. Yeah, you can see that here. Oh, sorry. Okay, my bad. Pressed the wrong button. Okay, so here, and then sensory details that go for sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. And for that, we use multiple adjectives. Yeah, this is very important. So sensory details appeal to our senses in order to create this imaginary sight, hearing, smell, taste, or touch. We use multiple adjectives for that to create it. Now, if you're using the multiple adjectives from different categories, as we have opinion, size, age, color, and material, then you will not use a comma because it's from a different category. But if, for example, I would use all from opinion, it's a delicious, magnificent, amazing, whatever, amazing, great pie, it's all opinion, then I would have to use commas to divide the words. Okay, just keep that in your memory. Yeah. Now here basically it gives the example of literature. Before ESL would look at literature as fiction and non-fiction, these two. You would have fiction is everything done dealing with a story. Yeah. If we're looking at non-fiction, that is everything that is informative. So it's more, yeah, bukan cerita. Yeah. But now they changed that into 3 factors. So we've got literature, which is everything about a story, fiction. Then we've got an informational text, which would be the former nonfiction. Yeah, so everything to gain knowledge. But then we have number 3, which is called a literary nonfiction. So basically right now in English, they have made that major change and added that. Yeah, so as before, we only had fiction and nonfiction. That was it. So in nonfiction, it was everything else other than a story. Now, basically, fiction is just called literature. And what falls under nonfiction, as in before, is now split into 2, as in informational text, which is everything to gain knowledge from textbooks to newspapers and all that. And then we've got literary nonfiction, which is factual literature. So that is basically something informative, written like a story, but it is not a story. Does that make sense? Because if it is a story, it must have a plot, it must have a setting, it must have a conflict, right? So this is something written, like for instance, a documentary, memoirs, biography, and even blogs. A lot of blogs right now and things that we're reading on the internet are actually literary nonfiction because they are extending information, but they're written as if it is a story. That's why they created this new whole idea of literary nonfiction. I think that's also because of the change that has been happening throughout this digital era, whereas before everything published would have been formal. And now a lot of the articles that you're reading are not even formal anymore. Yeah, so that's where we get literary nonfiction. Okay, I will never test you on that. I will never ask a question like, what is literary nonfiction? No, but you do need to know this. You need to understand that there are different ideas. So as a recap, literature, story, big time, conflict, climax, ending. Informal text, everything to gain knowledge, which is written formal. And then literary nonfiction is something that is factual, but written story-like. Okay, awesome. Now, then we've got literary elements, as I said. Yeah, the theme, the conflict, the point of view, the setting, but whole thing that involves it. And here it is kind of like putting alphabetical all the aspects of the techniques and the elements. Okay, so please read through that because I'm gonna use this while we're discussing our story. Makes sense? Yeah, great. Now, and then you have of course here the Google Slides of the literary devices. Yeah, we already looked at that, so you can just re-look at that if in any case you feel the need to. If you don't understand it yet, you can just take a quick look at that. And if it comes to literature, it's kind of basically just that. There is not that much to it. It's more, the 2 focuses on literature are always on recognizing. So it's basically you understanding the elements in literature, as I stated just now, which we see here in our arc. Yeah, this is an empty arc. It's just so, it's like a graphic organizer for you to understand, right? So we got a setting here. This is the arc. It goes up, poof, and then it goes down, right? The down part, which is the rising, the falling action you can see here. This is the falling action. Is shorter than the rising action. You see that? So basically in a story, the whole thing of building up the story will take you longer than ending. You see that? So it always starts with a setting. Now you guys need to remember, yeah, setting, what is so important about the setting? Yeah, time, place, and characters. That's basically it. When does it take place, the story? Where does it take place? And who are the characters? But there are other aspects that are added to a setting. We can think about the cultural setting, the context, historical context, economical context, social context. These are all these things that we can incorporate in our story because, like, for example, the Odyssey, remember guys, that was written like way before Christ. It was like before Common Era, such a long time ago. So you got to take it into account to think about, oh, when was that story written? You know, and what was fashion like? What was the economy like? What was politics like? What was that world like for you? In order to understand the story, you need to know that. So it always starts with the setting and then the characters, characterization here, kind of explaining what the characters are like. And that brings us to a point of view. Do you remember that point of view? So we have, from what point of view are you telling? First point of view, then the character is telling the story. Me, my. I went to the shop, I bought myself a Coke, I went home and I drank it, and oh, I had a great day. Or the third point of view, it was early morning when Joanne woke up very early in the morning, went to the store, bought herself a Coke, went home, and she had a lovely day. Then it would be name, he, she, they, them, right? So what point of view are you using? Who's telling the story? And they've got, of course, this is the rising action, as you can see here. So you have the suspense, yeah, the conflict, and then the suspense, and then the climax. This is really where the katoosh, you get the whole explosion, and it slowly goes down to the resolution. You end your story. And very important is the theme within your story. Okay, so these are the elements you need to know. For grade 10, this is enough if you know this. And then next year we go deeper into that. Okay? Any questions about this? So rising action and falling action. Okay? What is the setting? Time, place, characters. Then it starts with the conflict, it builds suspense, and then it goes to the climax, and then you get the resolution. Now, anything that doesn't have that is either what I showed you. Anything that doesn't have that, what I showed you just now, is either informal text, informational text, or literary nonfiction. Because an informational text and literary nonfiction do not have that arc. Okay? Cool beans. Yeah. Oh yeah, right. And I also gave you this one. I give you a whole lot of stuff. You gotta just, just scan through it and look. And if you go like, so they don't get it, just let me know. I will explain it to you. Yeah. I just give you all these notes to help you understand the concept of it, since it's new for you and it's the second semester, and suddenly you get literature. It's like, what the heck is this? Right? So we're taking it slow in this semester, okay? Just for you to get to know. In the next, maybe I think in the next school year, we can go more into all of this, yeah? So we have here jump spit. You have here a summary of narrative. So basically, this is really going into literature, into story, which we then would say narrative, because most of you resonate with that a bit more. We always go with GPFDO, GPFDO, which actually stands for genre, purpose, focus, devices, organizational structure. So basically, for every type of writing, we always have to analyze it by using this acronym. Like, what's the genre? What's the type? What's the purpose? What's the focus? What are the devices that need to be used for that type of writing or text? What is the organizational pattern of the text? In this case, we're talking narrative, which is to entertain. The focus is always the setting and the plot, so the sequence of events. So here it is, I already wrote it down for you. So we have the setting, which is place, time, and characters, conflict, suspense, climax, resolution, and ending. And here you've got that same thing about building imagery. Yeah? So the devices that you use in literature are always descriptive words. Yeah, the devices we use, we want to create a world that you can imaginarily see. If you read a story, you want to be able to imagine it. Guys, have you ever read a book that you loved and then you watch the movie and you go, like it isn't as good as the book is, because you had your own imagination and you were like, this character is supposed to have black hair. Why is he having blonde hair? This is supposed to have brown eyes. Why does he have blue eyes? Like your whole imagination is different from what you see in the movie, and that can be disappointing. Means that the writer was amazing, because that writer was then able to help you create this imaginary world. And that is what we call imagery. And for that, as I said, we use figurative language and sensory details. We also use that descriptive devices. So in literature, you have to use descriptive devices, such as figurative language and sensory details. And sequence words, because a story is written with steps, right? Chronological. First this happened, then that happens, then that happens. That is important. So the organization that you use in a story is called chronological order. Yeah? And for that, we use sequence and time words like first, then, after that, following, finally. Yeah, you know that already from SMP probably, yeah? Okay, another very important thing. Well, you can also look at the acronym grab. As you can see, I use a lot of acronyms because that is just, those are like tricks for you to remember. So we've got GPF do and we've got grab. Grab is a shorter form of genre, register. So first knowing the genre, that will determine the register. Register is the formality. Is it formal, is it semi-formal, is it informal? Which then will determine diction. Diction is the choice of words, the vocab that you will use. That then we use to create a tone. Are you angry? Are you happy? Are you sad? Like what tone are you talking? Who are you as a character? Are you stern? Are you full of authority? Are you timid? Are you scared? And that will create a voice with how you exercise that, and then that is the mood that you create or the atmosphere within the story. If you look at this, then you can see that stories are very complex to actually write. So audience, definitely also important. Who are you writing to? Who's the story for? And then, of course, the objective. The mood, basically, which is the mood you get from the story. You know, when you read a story, you go like all sad, like, oh, and you really feel it. You know, like, I don't know about you, but sometimes even, you have that in movies as well, right? When you, or series, where you have this moment where you go like, oh, it poked my heart, man. Like, this, yeah, either joyful or sad, you know, and that is mood. That is an atmosphere mood that is created. That's amazing if you're able to do that. Now they use voice and tone for that. Tone is more into how formal the tone is, joyful, sad, but voice is the personality of the writer. That is how the writer portrays the personality. Diction is the word, setting, and then the theme, right? Okay, so if you would want to go over here again, it's like a recap of some of the literary terms that we have, like the rising action, falling action, yeah, that are important. So it's like a summary. Yeah, so if you keep forgetting, don't worry, just open it up. And if you have questions or you have to do your quiz, the whole point is that you open your material. So you do your quiz, open the summary, open the art, open all the devices you've got to answer the questions, because this quiz is not a test. It's more like you working with the questions, you independently trying to find the answer by accessing the information that you've got. Okay? Any questions, guys? All good? We're all good. Awesome. Okay, then we're gonna look at our story. Yeah. Okay, now, oh yeah, you guys only have quizzes after each 2 units, right? Chapters. So that is like every other week, right? Every other week. So you're supposed to, oh, let me peek. I'm so forgetful. Okay, you were supposed to read chapter 2, right? That was what you were supposed to do. Because you can't read everything in class, but I do want to go over it also together, because I do want to read something in order to, to point out some aspects of that we are seeing. Yeah. So I'm not going to give you a list of words that you need to remember, but it is important that you go over the literary devices. Yeah. To know, we're working definitely with like onomatopoeia, which is the sound words, right? The sound words that we're having, like the view of splash, splash, very important. And like a metaphor and simile, which is the comparison, which is so obvious. And you use like and as. She barks like a dog. She's not a dog. No, when she gets angry, her anger resembles the barking of a dog. Yeah. Or a metaphor, which is also a comparison, but not as clear as a simile. And the list, I gave you the list already. You can read through it and understand, because we're going to find those things within the text that we're reading. Okay, we're going to open Spark Notes first to look at the summary that we can find. Please remember that this story is ancient, okay? This is the time of the Greeks, the Greek mythology, the idea and the understanding of having the god of the sun and the god of the air, the god of the sea, the god of the whatever. That was this time. They had no scientific proof of things and tried to make sense of the world by just making things up, Yeah. was the interesting part of it. Okay, where yeah, you can see here that you can find basically anything, all guys. Really cool. Okay, you can really tap into all this information. Yeah, you see here the themes, the protagonists, the setting, the symbols, the allusions, the point of view, the foreshadowing. What's foreshadowing? You give any information about what is going to happen in the future, but you're not really giving it away, but you're kind of hinting. So you have foreshadowing that is hinting into what is like giving you clues. And then you have a backflash, you know, like you go back to what has already happened. Here also talks about the plot analysis, antagonists, the motives. So, you know, guys, just take some time to look at that, yeah? Okay, so in the first one, okay, we watched the video already last week. Next week or so, we're gonna watch another video. There are 3 videos I wanna watch with you about the Odyssey. You can actually also access it yourself, but we're also gonna do that together. So what is chapter 2 about? The first one, remember the part was Odysseus was, okay, so to remember to recap, Odysseus went to Troy, right, to fight the Trojan War. 10 years the war took, 10 years. They won it. Remember, yeah, the wooden horse that was brought into Troy as if they left this gift, you know. But inside were all the warriors, and at night they came out and they destroyed the city, and ba-dang, that was it. So Odysseus won. And on his way back, he was supposed to give certain sacrifices to the gods or whatever. He didn't do that. So the gods got angry. And he got stranded on an island and he had to stay there. You remember that? So what happens is in the end, he got stuck, right? And so then later on in part 2, we see that he travels back. He comes back to his place where he lived. What was that again? Tunas or something. And there he then has to get rid of all the guys who are there, the suitors, and then he has to reclaim his throne because he's actually the owner of his place. Yeah, I mean, like of his palace and his estate and his island or his kingdom, basically. Yeah. Okay, let me try to access the PDF. Maybe that would be good. Let me see if this works. Yeah, I'm not seeing you because I'm not sharing. Wait. Okay. Okay, this works. Awesome. Yeah, my scanning isn't that great, but I really did my best though. Okay, here we have this picture. Now, see, the book is a bit hard to take pictures of though. So we go to chapter 2. Loading is real, people. It takes some time. There's 2. Oh, here we go. Telemachus. Telemachus' travel. If Odysseus ever proves that he was your friend in the hard years of the war, tell me everything that you know about his death. Okay, we're gonna read. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see how far. This is long, people, long. Okay, we're gonna go for a bit to see what is happening. As Telemachus and his companions came near to Pylos, they saw a great crowd of people on the beach, including the king Nestor and his family. Telemachus' crew brought the ship to land. Then they all followed Athena, who was still disguised as a mentor, onto the shore. Telemachus was the last to leave the ship, and as they walked towards the crowd, Athena said to him, "Remember, this is not a time to be shy. We are here to find out how your father's life ended. Go, then, and ask Nestor confidently if he has any news." Okay, stop, time out. Who is Telemachus? Who can tell me? Come on, guys. Who is Telemachus? Guys, can you please turn on your cameras? Come on, come on. I want to see your face. There is no discussion if I don't see your face. It's hard to discuss if I do not see you. Remember, yeah? No cameras on counts for absent. Even if I see your name here in the Zoom meeting, it is not counted as present. If you do not respond and do not turn on your camera, I'm sorry, but that's the deal, okay? So that counts for Komang, Nathan, Yehuda, Surya, James, Shannon, Michael, Abraham. I love that name, Abraham. That's so cool name. Devin, James, thank you. Appreciate it, man. Kelly, thank you. Karina, awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna ask Grace. Grace, hi. I love your name. Your name is beautiful. Grace. Grace, tell me, who's Telemachus?
Yes, Miss.
Who is Telemachus? Can you imagine having a kid calling your kid Telemachus? That's such an interesting name. Who is that, Grace? Who's Telemachus?
Telemachus?
Yes. If you hadn't read it yet, you don't want to say that, right? Like, Miss, I didn't read it yet. That's not cool. So if you're smart, you Google it right now real fast. The Odyssey Telemachus. Who's Telemachus?
It is son of Odysseus.
Yeah, cool beans.
Penelope.
He is the son, right? Telemachus is Odysseus' son. So remember the story what I explained? Thank you, Grace. Appreciate it. Good job. So at the beginning, remember that Odysseus got married and his wife's name is Penelope. Very good. And so they had a kid and they called him Telemachus. And then he left for war. So he left Telemachus and Penelope when Telemachus was only a baby. And the Trojan War took 10 years. And then he was stuck for around 10 years. So by the time that Odysseus came back, Telemachus was already an adult. So sad. And they had no internet and they had no phones and none of anything. Oh, it's sad life. Okay, good. And then who's Athena? Amanda. Who's Athena?
The god of the daughter of Zeus.
Yeah, very good. And yes, good job, Athena. Okay, Telemachus was the last to leave the ship. As they walked towards the crowd, Athena said to him, remember, this is not a time to be shy. We did that already just now. Oh no, I am. We are here to find out your father's life ended. So they don't know at this point where Odysseus is. They don't know. They assume that Odysseus is dead, but they don't really know. And remember that these suitors, these men who come to live at his estate and palace, they kind of want to marry his mom so they will become rich and can take over the kingdom, right? So they're trying to figure out where his dad is. But I will be embarrassed talking in public to Nestor, Telemachus replied. He's so much older than me and so famous. I have no experience of public life. How should I speak to him? Do not worry, Athena advised. When your own words fail you, the gods will help you. They are looking kindly on this journey of yours. When they reached the crowds, they were greeted warmly by Nestor and his family, who had just made a sacrifice to the sea god Poseidon. The king's son, Pisistratus, who would call a kid that? Pisistratus, offered them some meat from the sacrificed cows and servants poured them some wine. And after they had finished the wonderful food, the way they dress is funny. Nestor spoke. Okay, I'd like Ian to continue reading. Who are you? Until died.
Yeah. Nestor spoke, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Nestor spoke. Who are you? Friends, and where have you come from? What is your business here in Pylos? Athene gave Telemachus the confidence to reply. Nestor, son of Nelcus, great hero of Greeks, where are We are from the island of Isaka. I have come here looking for news of my father, long-suffering Odysseus. It is said that he fought by your side until the end of the Trojan War, but he has never come home, and no one can tell us when or where he died.
Yeah,
Ah,
very good. Thank you. Oh. Aduh. Okay, Natalie, Natalia. I want to say Natalie. Natalia, can you continue that one? The here.
Okay. Oh, my friend, cried King Hector. What memories I have of that long war. It will take years just to tell you all the of all the disaster that struck us at Troy. We lost our best man there, Achilles, Patroclus, and my own son Antilochus too, a handsome boy, fast and strong.
Very good. Thank you. We continue with the next paragraph. I'm gonna ask Shannon. Good morning, Shannon.
Morning.
Can you turn on your camera, Shannon? Is that possible?
For 9 years, we tried to beat the Trojans, but Zeus threw many difficulties in our path. In all those years, no one showed better judgment than Odysseus, your father. If you really are his son, it is not hard to believe since you look and speak exactly like him. In all those long years, your wise father and I never once spoke on opposite sides of an argument, and at every stage of the war, we agreed on the best plan of action.
Okay, what does that say? What does this say about these two people? What does this say about Odysseus and the man they're talking to? Nestor. What does this paragraph tell us about the relationship that Nestor had with Odysseus? Nathan, good morning. Hello, Nathan. Hello, hello. Good morning. Yehuda? Yehuda? Surya? Surya? Okay. Joshua?
Yes, miss.
Okay, what does this say about the relationship between Nestor and Odysseus?
What, miss?
What does this paragraph say about the relationship Nestor had with Odysseus? Guys, I really appreciate it if you pay attention, yes? If you don't pay attention, you cannot answer any of these questions. Carissa, good morning. Carissa? Michael?
I don't know, miss.
Can you turn on your camera, Michael? Ivana, good morning, Ivana.
Morning, miss.
Can you turn on your camera?
Okay,
Guys, really, Laura, I'm gonna put you in absent. Really, you can put your name in, you can log into the Zoom account, you do not respond, you do not turn on your camera, you're absent from me. Okay? I've said this many times. Everybody else can do it, then you guys can do it too. Nathan, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Yes. Yehuda, Carissa, Surya, please turn on your cameras. Thank you very much. Can you imagine if I were teaching you and I'm not turning on my camera? That would be weird, right? Yeah, it's the same for me. It's weird not seeing your face. Makes me happy seeing your face. Okay, it probably shows a little bit that they were tight. They were good. Nestor and Odysseus had a good relationship. Okay, they could get along really well because it shows here that they agreed on the best plan of action, that they were really tight knit in their friendship, I think, and how they worked together. For 9 years, we tried to beat the Trojans, but Zeus threw many difficulties in our path. Who is Zeus? Who's Zeus? Anyone?
The father of Athena.
Yeah, he's the god of sky and thunder. And yes, he's like the biggest of them all. Exactly. He threw many difficulties in our path. Thank you, by the way. In all of those years, no one showed better judgment than Odysseus, your father, if you really are his son. It is not hard to believe, since you look and speak exactly like him, right? We did all of that. After we destroyed the city of Troy, we left on our ships, but then Zeus sent us all in different directions. Because some people among us had displeased the gods. We had arguments about the ride home, and some ships were caught by storms. I myself was lucky. My voyage was very smooth, so I heard no news of the other commanders. But what is the news from Ithaca? Ithaca, what is Ithaca again? Who lives in Ithaca? Anyone? That's the place where Odysseus, this is Odysseus's kingdom. This is where Telemachus lives with his mom Penelope, yeah? It's Ithaca. Are the stories true that a crowd of your mother's suitors are living as uninvited guests in your house? I only wish that the goddess Athena showed you some of the kindness that helped your father so much during the war. If she cared for you like that, the suitors would soon have their thoughts of marriage knocked out of them. Okay, I want to ask Nathan, can you continue reading for me? Good, Nestor, this part. Nathan, can you read it please for me? Starts here. We're good, Nestor, this part.
Okay, Miss. Okay.
Cool.
Good, Nestor, replied Telemachus. I cannot hope for an end to my troubles with the suitors, even if it's the God dear wish.
Continue. One more. Telemachus.
Telemachus interrupted bright-eyed Athene. What are you saying? Nothing is impossible if the gods are helping you.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome. Carissa, please continue. This one. The gods. Carissa?
The gods have already sent my father to his death, Mentor said Telemachus to the goddess. Is that their way of helping my family? Next paragraph, miss?
Yes. Thank you.
Well, my advice to you, Telemachus, continued Nestor, is to go home quickly and guard your property from the greedy suitors. But there is one more person that you should visit. Menelaus has only just returned home after years lost at sea. Perhaps he will have news of your father. Go now with your ship and crew, or my sons can go with you by land and show you the way to red-haired Menelaus' palace in Sparta.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome. Very good. Darkness was falling, so Nestor invited him to stay the night at the palace. You're very kind, my lord, said Athena. Telemachus will gladly accept your invitation, but I must return to the ship. In the morning, the crew and I must continue our voyage. Telemachus can travel to Sparta in one of your chariots if your son can be his companion. Yeah, now we are. Callie, good morning. Can you continue reading?
Yeah,
When she finished.
okay. When she finished, the goddess turned into a bird and flew away. Nestor and Telemachus stared at the sky in shock. Telemachus, my boy, cried Nestor. I think your friend Mentor was really out at him,
Yeah, Athena.
at him, whose help was available to your father, with a goddess at your side. You have a great future ahead of you.
Yeah.
Next paragraph.
Okay, I will ask James to continue reading. Thank you. You did great.
Yeah,
James? James, can you continue? This is Telemachus spent the night. I can't hear you, my friend. Wait, let's unmute you. Yep.
Okay. Telemachus spent the night in Nestor's place, and in the morning Nestor's son Pisistratus called for a
Susah.
chariot to make them to Sparta.
Yeah, continue. They arrived.
They arrived 2 days later and found Menelaus celebrating a family wedding. The guard and dancers were entertaining the guests in the hall as they ate their dinner.
Thank you very much, James. Wow. Telemachus and Pisistratus stopped their chariot outside the palace. Menelaus' friend, Eteoneus, came out of the hall and saw them there. He hurried to his king, saying, "There are two strangers at the gates. Should we welcome them inside or ask them to continue on their journey?" Red-haired Menelaus answered him angrily, "Ateneus, you are not usually a fool, but you are certainly talking like one now. You and I enjoyed the welcome of strangers in many far lands before we reached home. Go and help our guests at once and invite them to join us." So they're invited to come in, and basically, I think that as Telemachus is on his journey to figure out where his dad is and whether his dad is alive or not, that is what this whole part is about, to understanding where his dad is. Okay, one more. I would like to ask for the next paragraph. I'd like to ask siapa ya? Christian, sir. Do we call you Christian or Charis or Charis or Charis, or what do we call you? I'm so confused.
Charis, Miss.
Oh, ya ampun, Charis. That's it. Okay. Charis, can you do the next paragraph? Telemachus. Charis, where have you gone?
Telemachus and Pisistratus were soon following Eteoneus into the place. When they were washed by the servant girls and dressed in fine new clothes, they took their seats next to Menelaus in the hall.
Menelaus in the hall. Yeah, it was in the palace. Yeah. Yeah. Good. The servants brought them food and drink, and Menelaus greeted them warmly. Telemachus whispered to Pisistratus, "Look at his robe. Have you ever seen so much gold? Surely even Zeus's palace on Mount Olympus does not shine as brightly." What does that mean? I know. Have you ever seen this much gold? What does it mean? So this guy, Athenius, oh no, Menelaus. Menelaus is super rich, right? He has a lot of wealth. Menelaus heard his words and said, "No one's home can compare with the palace of the gods, dear boy. but few ordinary men have collected more treasure than I have. For 7 long years, I traveled the world and made my fortune in Cyprus, Egypt, Ethiopia, Libya. But there were many hard times during those years, and while I was away, my brother was cruelly murdered by his wife and her lover. I would happily exchange all the gold and silver in this house for the return of my brother and the friends who I lost at Troy. Now, who can tell me what that paragraph means? Who can tell me? He's super rich. So Telemachus sees this, it's like, dude, this guy is stinking rich. Gosh, you know? But his response to it, what does that mean? What does this say about Grace? Could you tell me, Gracia, sorry, Gracia. Could you tell me what this paragraph says about Menelaus? Is he a greedy man? Is he a generous man? What kind of guy is he? Gracia? No? Gracia. James, what do you think? What does this say about Menelaus hearing that? When he says, no home can compare with the palace of the gods. And when he talks about there were many hard times and that his brother was murdered. And that he says, I would gladly give all the gold and silver in this house in order for my brother to return. What does that say about him? What do you think? There is no right and wrong answer, yeah? This is just what you take out of it.
He's humble.
Okay, cool. Could you elaborate on that a little bit? Why do you think he's humble?
He does not brag about how much gold, but he cares.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, guys, remember, yeah, when you respond, give a point, explain your point. If possible, add an example from the story and link it back. Yeah, that's how we respond. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, he might be humble. And I think also maybe I think he understands life. Yeah, he knows what it means like to be super rich, but he also knows what it means like to lose everything. And he was lost, right? He was lost on sea for how many years? 7 years. And he luckily found his way back. So this guy must be so grateful that he found his way back, that he's safe. But then when he returned home after 7 years, he saw that his brother was killed. And so for him, it's like to have all this money and all this gold. What's the purpose if the loved ones are gone? Yeah, so he really understands the meaning of life, probably. Yeah. Okay, we've gotten this far. So far, I haven't seen any particular literary technique yet that I want to point out. But we do see through meaning that this really is about good versus evil, but also truth and hard work and humbleness, and that not necessarily having a lot in material things means that you are also happy, right? Yeah. Okay, awesome. So we almost are at the end of our time for today. Remember that you can just dig into Spark Notes to find more meaning. Yeah. I'm going to end today's lesson. We went over the literary devices, which are the techniques and elements. Remember the notes. We went over the narrative arc. Remember setting, rising action, which has the suspense, the conflict, and the climax, and the rising action and the falling action. And we went over Spark Notes. We went over chapter 2 together. And now the link, I will open the link of quiz 1. It's already a Moodle. You should access through the topic of literature. So when you open Moodle for my subject, you see the upper information, all the information, yeah, the links. And then you see the first topic is literature, the Odyssey. And then scrolling down, you will see announcements. So you got to click announcements. Inside the announcements are all the quizzes. I place all the quizzes there. Okay? It's still locked, so I'm going to open it, then you can access it. Please do it today. Yeah? So you still have other lessons. Do your other lessons first, but make sure that you have finished the quiz today. Okay? And remember, it is not a test. So the whole point is for you to access all your information. You can access the internet, Spark Notes, summaries, whatsoever, just to work with it and answer the questions, okay? Cool. Are there any questions? No? Okay, then real quick, remember there is a post-study, so make sure that you finish quiz 1 and your pre-study would be read chapter 3. So for next week, make sure you have read chapter 3. Now, I'm not sure if you already got your book, but I heard that you are getting your book this week, right? So I'm not gonna give you a PDF because since you're getting your book this week, you will have enough time to read it for Tuesday, right? It's not that long. Okay, cool beans. Thank you very much. Well done today. Have a great day and God bless you. Yeah.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Miss.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, Miss.